Here we go. I'm at university where I actually graduated, from in 2002, and then I moved to South Korea. But since we're doing these videos chronologically, it is time for me to talk about my high school. And the high school is different than it is here in North America, because our system of education was 8 years of elementary school and then 4 years of high school, and then after that university. So we did not have that middle school. And it was assumed that after our elementary school, which I graduated from when I was 15 years old in my hometown in Bosnia and Herzegovina, there was a test done. We would all write tests, and there would be some kind of aptitude, attitude test, done, and after which you would be kind of placed in certain categories. Okay, this guy is like really academically oriented, this guy is not, this guy has an affinity towards this, toward that, and then they can decide whether you should go to a generalized high school and then maybe to university later to become a doctor or a lawyer, something of a higher calling. But if you're a rascal, if you are not interested in school, and school is really not something that you enjoy, you're not academically oriented, then you can become a plumber, you can become a doctor, or, a nurse, or something, of a lower ranking or lower calling, whatever, you want to call it, blue collar versus white collar, whatever, I'm not here to judge, I'm just here to explain how it was done in former Yugoslavia. I had some of the best grades and marks coming to that test. I was probably the second student of my generation in former Yugoslavia out of 27 million people at that time. I had a really high score in all the grades, all IQ tests. Then I started doing drugs and alcohol, and everything went downhill. But when I was 15 years old, I was a really promising young genius. So all the doors were open to me. And due to a chance meeting one summer, we ended up meeting one officer who was teaching in one of these military colleges, military high schools. And he told us how, the students leave home and live there, and, everything is taken care of them, and they get really good education, and it's kind of fun. But to me, the most important part was leaving my home, because as you know from my previous videos, I really did not get along with my own mother, and I did not get along with my own hometown. Honestly, I lived in a small town with the mentality of it that, you had to be nobody to be somebody. You could not be different. And I was always different. I was intelligent. I was flamboyant. I wanted to be every single color of the rainbow, versus you had to be old-fashioned, traditional. You had to be a Muslim, or a Orthodox Christian, and I did not want to choose to be one or the other. I did not want to be a Muslim or a Serb or a Croat, or I am the bloody universe. I am everything under this sun. So I wanted to explore so much more, and that was really difficult in my hometown and with my own family, unfortunately, because as my father would always say, modesty is always the best. And you know what? He is right. But being young man that I was, I just could not be modest. I wanted to play rock and roll. I wanted to, write books, travel the world, and psh. So anyways, going to this school was definitely something for me. So I managed to pass the test, of course, even though physically I was not ready for it. I've always been a little bit, I would say, overweight or on a slower side. I was a good athlete, but not to the level of that military college or a military high school. But my grades were amazing. So because of that, I was able to get in. So in 1990, I was 15 years old. the war in Yugoslavia was to start a year later, I got accepted in one of the most prestigious military colleges in Europe. My education, my high school, 4-year high school, was about $60,000 versus my university degree of 5 years here was only 45. So you can imagine how much of an education we received. The whole point was that we were to become officers and gentlemen. So that school was teaching us how to dance, that was teaching us how to drive, how to, you know, fix tanks, how to listen to music. There was a lot of different things that we studied. We had courses in absolutely everything. We learned so many different things. And we lived there. We had, you know, three meals a day. Everything was paid for. These beautiful uniforms and an access to the wealth of knowledge. I loved the libraries that we had, the information available to us. The people, our professors and teachers were highly educated professionals who could teach us absolutely anything. Like I said, from dancing to shooting, absolutely every single kind of gun, you know. That costs money to organize, you know, something like that. So yeah, 4 years of that education was absolutely amazing. Unfortunately, the war started, so even though we started in Zagreb, Croatia, we had to move and leave Croatia, you know, and move to Serbia, where I graduated in '94. Unfortunately, because I was the last remaining Bosnian Muslim, you know, which I'm not, I'm everything. But on paper, you know, I remember in 1991, just before the war, my officer came up to me and said, "Who are you?" I said, "My name is Eldin, I'm Eldin." "What's your nationality?" "I'm a Yugoslav." "Okay, but where are you from?" "I'm from Bosnia." "So what are you?" "Like, I'm Bosnian." "There's no such thing. You cannot be Bosnian. You can be a Muslim, Orthodox Christian, or Roman Catholic." It's like my family is mixed. I have all these people in my family. No, you gotta choose one. It's like, you know, when you have a soccer game, like you can have like people who wear t-shirts or people who don't wear t-shirts, so we can have a soccer match. So it's like you have to decide, you're Muslim, okay, you're gonna fight with these. And I just refused to do that. But anyways, they declared me as Bosnian Muslim because of my name, because of my heritage. And that labeled me as such, so throughout these 4 years of schools. So we lived in Croatia, then we lived in Serbia, you know. My parents were really not happy about that. But I was very, very adamant about supporting former Yugoslavia and fighting for, you know, for all the Yugoslavs to live in one country. Because I've always lived, just like, you know, Bob Marley says, in one love, in one world, you know, that we are all the same, that there's no differences. Unfortunately, you know, when it comes to the politics, that's not the same. You know, one of the reasons why I did join the military college was for us to be the same, to live kind of, eat the same food, wear the same clothes, have the same education. But I realized that no, that's not the case. In the army, just like outside, there was always nepotism, that there was always, you know, ways that people would go against each other in order to profit from them. So people who came from the same place or had like cousins or something like that, they would help them out. And I really didn't like that. I always, you know, wanted to have this fair play, but that doesn't exist. I think that stems from our capitalist kind of way of thinking, that everything is competition, that there's only one way to skin the cat, that everybody is, you know, fighting for one position, you know, that you have to be, you know, number one because number two is not important. I don't like that. I think that's not true, because I truly think that our human nature is sharing and caring, and that we truly care for each other. Look at, you know, when people fall in love with each other, they really care for each other more than they care for themselves. You can see that from the parents and the children. So I think that's the true nature of humanity. But because of thousands of years of miseducation, we believe that competition is the only way to go. the former Yugoslavian army, in my opinion, at that time was as close as we got to that ideal of communism, where people truly cared for each other. And how we did that was in these, examples that I'm going to show you right now. When we joined for the first time this highly prestigious, high school in Zagreb, Croatia, we lived like in hotels. We had access to like such beautiful, buildings, beautiful rooms. Everything was relatively new. There was 4 of us staying in one room versus the regular army when there was like 40 people staying in one room. So 4 of us really liked music, and at night we would decide to play music so we can go to sleep. At that time I was a punk rocker. I really liked punk rock. I listened to Sex Pistols, Exploited, Damned, Clash, and some Yugoslav punk rock bands. The person next to me was Miloš from Belgrade, and he liked rockabilly style of music, sort of like Elvis Presley, something like that. The person next to him was Željko, also from Bosnia and Herzegovina, and he loved metal, heavy metal. He listened to Metallica, Sepultura, Def Leppard, Iron Maiden. And finally, the 4th person was Slobodan from the northern part of Serbia, called Vojvodina, and he listened to like MC Hammer and Snap and I've got the power and things like that. We had so much fun with that. So every night we would decide, okay, one night we're listening to this, another night we're listening to that, and that's it. What I learned is to appreciate the differences. I really did not like all these kinds of music, and really, if you listen to all kinds of music as I do now, you're probably schizophrenic. Or you have a multiple personality, and I honestly think I probably do. Or maybe I have developed this tolerance, this understanding that by me admiring their music, I admire them so they can admire me back. Maybe it was just a survival mechanism. But I truly enjoyed it, even though like maybe subconsciously I was thinking differently. I never showed it. When it was a rockabilly night, I was like, oh man, this is awesome, I love it. When it was a metal night and my friend would say, okay, how about we listen to Iron Maiden tonight? Perfect, excellent choice. And then my friend would go like, and tonight we're listening to MC Hammer. Excellent. Why did I do that? Why did they do that? Because we were building friendship. We were truly caring for each other. In the army, you realize that you really depend on each other. So let's say we are in the war, and we actually did end up in the war. A year later, the war started. For 3 years, we were going to this school. When we moved from Croatia to Serbia, for those 3 years, the war was going on in Bosnia, in Croatia, everywhere, and we really had to be there for each other. So let's say you were in the war and something happens, one of you is shot. This person that you truly admire and love is going to pick you up, carry you for 20 kilometers in rain and snow, and unless he really, really loves you, he's not going to be able to do that. So how do you develop that true love, true compassion? Is by sharing, by admiring each other truly and fully. And we learned that immediately in school, and that was the best thing that ever happened to us. We had people come from different parts of former Yugoslavia, and they had different traditions, different cultures. I remember one example that I used is of my friends from this border town between Serbia and Bosnia. So that didn't belong to Bosnia or didn't belong to Serbia, really. It was in Serbia, but they felt like Bosnians. So it was very difficult for them to declare their own identity. And I think a lot of their identity was held in these superstitious beliefs. They had very superstitious beliefs which kind of created their own identity. That's kind of the difference between Canadians and Americans. There is really no difference, but Canadians love this, Americans love that, so we're different. So the same thing happened in this Sanjak area between Serbia and Bosnia. So let's say when people would trim their fingernails. They had to kind of like dispose of them in a certain way. And the fingernails, the cut off fingernails should not fall on the ground, and if it stays there and somebody steps on it, it's bad luck for the rest of your life. So you make sure you collect all of them and dispose of them in a proper way. Some of them bury them, some of them, like, I don't even know what they do with them. But let's say this person drops his freaking fingernail on the floor. We all stop. Look for the bloody fingernail. What? It doesn't matter what you think, what you believe. It matters to this person, and you care about this person. So because you care for this person, you care for this bloody thing. So you go and look around until you find that bloody fingernail, then you dispose of it in a certain way. And then this person does the same thing to you. Tomorrow, when you say, I really like this or that, whatever your thing might be, this person is going to support you. Imagine having that kind of unconditional support. That is what I learned in my military days. There was another incident in which, you know, years later, we were in Serbia in '94. The war is just almost towards the end. One of the worst things are happening all over the country. Genocide, you know, all the there was 110 of us that started this military college in 1990. Only 40 of us, less than 40 of us, graduated in '94, and I was the only Muslim. Again, self-proclaimed Muslim or forcibly proclaimed Muslim, who graduated but was not promoted, and I never got the rank because as a Bosnian Muslim I was not supposed to work in the Serbian army, because what happened, Croats or Croatians, Slovenians, Macedonians, Bosnians, they all left. So only Serbs stayed in the army, unfortunately. So towards the end of our education, we had this marathon. We were supposed to do some kind of physical exercise, and they were supposed to grade us on how far or how fast we ran this marathon. So what they did is they placed like 40 of us to run together. My friends told me, look, you're gonna run first and we're gonna run after you. Doesn't matter how fast or slow you run. And I was like, dude, it's so embarrassing. I'm the slowest of them, all. I know. So as I was running this marathon and they were slowly walking behind me pretty much, they kept singing these nationalistic Serbian songs, which completely pissed off all the officers and everybody else, because everybody sort of believed that, the army should be clean, that, Bosnians should go to Bosnians, Serbians should stay as Serbians. And we rebelled because we were the kind of leftovers of that ideology of brotherhood and unity, of Bob Marley, One Love. But it showed us the power of human spirit, which I truly believe is more than what we are led to believe, that this whole competition, this capitalist way of thinking is not the true reality of human nature. Like I said, so many things happened through these 4 years from 1990 to 1994, including the whole war. I learned how to drive. I remember we stole trucks and did all kinds of crazy things. I drove tanks. I learned how to dance, and I learned how to ski. I met friends that I haven't seen in about 20, 30 years, since '94. I guess 20 years. But if they were to call me now, and if I were to call them, they would immediately be there and just say, what it is what you need, and I'll do it. I'm really hoping to see them soon, so I'm kind of introducing all this because of that, so people can follow chronologically my development, from get-go to where I am now. So there you go. That was the military college that I graduated from in '94, and unfortunately, because I never got my rank in the army for next 2 years, from '94 to '96, I was a refugee within my own country, and finally in '96 I arrived to Canada. I hope you can sort of piece things together along the way, and I will talk about these different stories that happened to me or to us during those 4 years, or during my life in separate videos, because there were so many little incidents that happened that were just funny or crazy or unbelievable. You can imagine 4 years of 40 crazy people trying to graduate and trying to survive the war and then learn along the way. It was definitely a good experience, and I remember it. I remember clearly all the little stories to this day. Anyways, big hello from Memorial University in Newfoundland and Labrador, and next time we'll talk a little bit about my Canadian experience and my university experience here. Love you all. See you in the next video. Cheers.